Suppose you all heard me. So good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get this meeting started. It's August the 20th, 2020. The time is 5:37 p.m. Ms. Davis, will you please do a roll call?
Yes, Chairperson Green,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Taylor,
Here.
Mrs. Pender,
Here.
Mrs. Sanders,
Here.
Mrs. Walker.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First thing on our agenda is approval of minutes for August the 3rd, 2020. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes. I move to approve.
May I have a second? Any comments or concerns before voting? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. So our first discussion is the joint plan section 6 student achievement data. Well, charter school data is what we'll look at. So how would you all like to do this? Do you want to just go through all of them? Because what we have is all grades here, and then it's broken down by schools. And from there, we rate for student achievement. Is that what we're going to do?
That's fine, whatever you suggest.
Okay, because in that section 6.
I'm rather disappointed that we don't have any data at all for 1920, and I know we were in school for most of the year. We should have some type of data.
Do you have the unit assessments, Brenda? I know I think I did request that. Maybe that's, let me look.
So Madam Chair, what you're looking at here is achievement gap based on FSA scores. Charter school students do not take our unit assessments.
So we would not have that for
Right.
the charter
They do
school.
their own progress monitoring, yep.
Okay. But for the rest of the schools, we should be able to, we should have that. So what Chris just said was, for this, we would see the charter school information for the FSA, but when we look at the unit assessments, the charter schools, they do not take the district's unit assessment, so we wouldn't have their 2019, 2020 information.
So
benchmarks and all of that?
That's charter
They're
schools.
part of-
They're
that's
responsible
part of-
for that, yes. They're responsible for benchmarks, unit assessment, that type of thing. Anything progress monitoring, that's the charter school's responsibility.
Do you have well, so do you guys want to look at the FSA and then go on to the unit assessments for the district?
Okay, yeah.
So we'll look at the FSA for the charter schools. So Imagine Schools at South Vero is a charter school, right? So it's hard to tell.
Gotcha.
If I'm reading this correctly, it looks like there's really nothing there for African-American students, less than 10.
Yeah, so you can't really examine percentage. So with the Imagine School, so the count of students is 3+, right? The total count of students, I guess, taking the FSA is less than 10 also? And the percentage that passed with the 3 or plus is less than 10?
That's correct, yeah.
Ouch.
Madam Chair, if I could, I just want to clarify that last statement. I don't think you meant it, but just in case, when the percentage is less than 10, it doesn't mean that it's less than 10%. It means that there's less than 10 students contributing, so we mask it. So anytime there's a less than 10, it means that we're not displaying the data.
Yeah, so, but I don't understand why the percentage of students that scored 3+ or higher would be less than 10%. If, like, let's say that there was 8 students that took the test, so I get less than 10 for the count of students that took the test, but if more than
If there's only
10%
one
passed.
kid, if there's only one kid and the percent was 0, you would know that that one kid did not pass. So generally, when there is less than 10 that contribute to a metric, we redact it, we don't give that percentage. Yeah, the way the language is that if someone could reasonably decipher who that student was or something related to those students.
Well, that's better. 'Cause- Okay. Less than 10. That should be changed then. And then the other, North County Charter School. So for North County Charter School, (120) white students, 80% for percentage students, 3 or higher. 20 black students, 50%. So 30% gap at North County Charter.
Yes.
Looking
Can't hear you.
at 18, 19, you're looking at?
Yes.
30%.
So it looks like it was less in 18, 19, and 17, 18 it dropped. It looks like the percent proficient dropped for black students.
Yes, it did.
From
100% of-
18
yep.
to 18, 19, by 13%.
Yes, but you know, you gotta, yes, you're right, but we're looking from 24 kids to 20 kids, you know what I mean? So,
Sure.
Smaller numbers. So
Sure.
we're not talking hundreds.
Well, the gap decreased, but less
Gap decreased
kids.
as well,
Right,
but
Yeah.
fewer kids,
same thing, yeah.
right.
Yep. Then we have St. Peter's Academy.
And again, at St. Peter's Academy, there's less than 10 students, white students at that school, so
Yeah,
that's
so-
why that is asterisked out as well.
And their proficiency for black students is 61% of the ones that took it. So 23. 14 out of 23. Do we have any more charters?
Ma'am?
Then we go to middle school now?
So again, I imagine it's less than 10, so that'll be, we can't show the gap.
Right.
The next school will be Sebastian Charter Junior High. And again, less than 10. And then lastly, when we look at St. Peter's, who has one grade level, grade 6, and again, we're at less than 10. The next sheet is Algebra 1 by middle school, same thing, less than 10 for the gap. For both schools.
Madam Chair, we focused keenly on 18, 19 data. Did you want us to focus specifically on the 18, 19 data?
Well, for the charter school, that's all we have, and then we'll go on to the unit testing for the district. But we can also look at it for the other schools as well, but I believe we looked at it last year, so
You saying unit assessments, or are you talking about FSA?
FSA.
Yeah. So when we ask specifically about the gap, that's why that's in there. So, I mean, if they have less than 10 students that participate in the assessment, then that's why. So Algebra 1, for example, is typically a smaller group of the middle school students. That's why you'll find some of those areas that are less than 10.
Yeah, like geometry too.
Like geometry, yes, Algebra 1.
And then with the charter schools, if they have a small percentage of black students, then we won't receive that data either,
That's correct.
which is unfortunate. Elementary and the high school. Same thing. So if you look at, let's go back to Algebra 1 and find it. Sebastian River High School last year
Looking at high school, Madam Chair?
for Algebra 1. You have 41 students, 41 black students took the FSA for Algebra 1. 12 scored level 3 or higher, 29%. 145 white students took the FSA for Algebra 1. 57 scored 3+ or higher, 39%. So there's a 10% gap there. Then you have 101 Hispanic students took Algebra 1 FSA, 17 students level 3 or higher, 17%. So with these numbers, it's safe to say that none of our students are receiving the support they need to pass this test, because good Lord.
It's sad, very sad.
Yep. And if you look at Vero Beach High School, 166 students, white students took the test, 94 level 3 or higher, 57%. 93 Hispanic students took it, 36 level 3 or higher, 39%. 117 black students, 36 scoring 3 or higher, 31%. Slightly better. The gap there between black and white students, 26%. And we were concerned with Algebra 1 because you need Algebra 1 to go into like STEM when you graduate. Like if you go to college, you're required to have that. It's one of your courses. This puts you on track to have a STEM major in college. And if our students are struggling to pass this, then we're putting them at a disadvantage going to college. And the all-school number, 50% white students pass it, 29% Hispanic, 30% black students. That's as a district. So there's a 20% gap district-wide. Well, high school-wide, district-wide, there's a 29% gap. So I guess some middle school students may take it? Where's that coming from?
Yeah, it's when you have the district, it'd be all students that participated.
Okay. %, okay. Could you, Brenda, could you bring up the unit assessments? I believe that was a past request that we,
Madam Chair,
yes.
of all the requests I processed, that's the one I still have, the unit assessment weighted average. I did do the iReady fall to winter, the iReady fall to winter for math, for reading. I did the iReady by placement, by school, iReady by grade level as well.
Okay.
So that's just, and I'll be honest, that's the one that is the longest amount of time, and I had saved that for the end, and I just didn't get to it.
Okay. So then we'll do the iReady then if you have that.
Already fall to winter. I think that was a prior
He said that he did not, do the unit assessment, but he's done the iReady.
Madam Chair, I believe we received that information at a prior meeting.
Yeah, I think so too, but you should have it, right, as a file for, I'll look it up.
Ms. Davis, could you just open up one of those iReady growth fall to winter folders?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you for labeling that, Ms. Davis. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Find it?
Yes, I just have a lot of stuff.
Madam Chair, was there any concerns with this report that you had, or anything when you reviewed it?
Well, just gonna go through with everyone since we have to, tonight we'll be working on like recommendations and seeing where we are as a board as far as compliance goes. And so maybe having a little discussion if you all have any concerns. But from here, so basically what we're doing now is we're reviewing the data. I printed out my joint plan, and then Ms. Davis also gave us the little rubric thing that I printed out. From here, we decide if, based on the information we have, is the district meeting the agreement for this section, and then what recommendations do you have going forward? Like last year with the student achievement, we put in different requests that we felt would be necessary for us to be able to monitor as a committee. If you all feel that there's different things that you need to receive in order to be able to accurately monitor the district's progress, like this is where you would make your recommendations.
Madam Chair, I see Dr. Moore doing a dance. Do you mind if he's?
If I could, Madam Chair, just two seconds. As you guys are going through the collection of data and begin the conversation as to how we evaluate the district regarding its progress within the areas identified within the joint plan, I think there's a great deal of information that I would like to provide to you and give you adequate time in which to process, to provide us feedback and recommendations. One of the things I did last night as we made modifications, enhancements, added substance to the African American Achievement Plan, is building an opportunity in that plan, which is a piece of the joint plan, so in some ways separate conversations, an opportunity for us mid-year through the implementation. African American Achievement Plan aligns to the school year, joint plan aligns to the calendar year. So in speaking of the African American Achievement Plan, we will provide a presentation to you in January in terms of our progress and allow you all to evaluate that progress and identify, is it partially, has it not yet started, is it fully completed? So that, and then we will then, based on that feedback, give our next steps in response to where we are as implementation. We also, based on feedback, provided a significant number of additional actions, implementation steps, and also aligned a very specific timeline for when that would be taking place. So if it wasn't done by that particular timeline, then we didn't meet the timeline. But that is the African American Achievement Plan. Based on conversations, my understanding from our last meeting, I went ahead and informed the board last night that the October 27th meeting would be an opportunity for us, I say us, the joint, the Equity Committee, along with the school board and members of NAACP to come together and have that joint presentation. And that would be what I anticipated or thought was the presentation you all gave last year in regards to the progress of the school system, now speaking specifically to the joint plan. My recommendation is to allow my team to put together all of the evidence progress that we have to submit to you, provide you all a 2-week window of time prior to meeting to review aligned to each of the specific sections of the plan. So it's not pulling together data and having to search through things. We will make a presentation to you. This is what we have. This is where we fell short. That will incorporate the suggestions you all made, this body made last year. I know you made a presentation to the board as it relates to suggestions within each of those particular areas. This would be a formal presentation as to where we are. Some of the areas we've made significant progress, other areas we have not made significant progress. But we can have that information available to you, allow you the time in an upcoming meeting. My recommendation would be provide a 2-week window from September 23rd through October 7th to review the meeting, a meeting sometime during the week of October 12th, which would allow us to receive that information from you within each of those particular sections, work together on what that PowerPoint presentation would be. That would become what I think was anticipated last year as being the presentation that would go to the courts. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but it will be, it will be this year. And then we would present that however you as a body feel is the appropriate way to the board and receive feedback. That would be my recommendation. I know we're evaluating data that has been collected to have a good sense. I just want the opportunity to look at the body of work. Of course, I am excited because this is a body of work that I am completely responsible for from January through now. We are entering a key time right now as school opens. There are a number of action steps now because students are returning. We have rebuilt master schedules. We've done a number of things that unfortunately, because of where we are in the window of time now, you just don't absolutely have. So we can provide that to you, give you the time to digest all of that information. A commitment that I make to you is to have you receive that information with a full 2 weeks to digest. Myself, my team, who are all here tonight, answer any questions you may have. A scheduled meeting for October 12th. The intent of that meeting would be to receive your feedback, and that is however you deem appropriate, progress, not progress, however you see fit. And then we move forward to putting together that presentation, which I think we would do mostly on the 12th, and then on the 27th, have that information to the board. Oh, there it is, right there. That would be my recommendation. I would also say I know we're looking at data, but I think it would be meaningful to have a clear understanding as to, from your perspective, what meets expectations and what doesn't meet expectations. I can't change the work that's been done. I can only present the information as it has been done or hasn't been done. But I think it's meaningful conversations for you as an evaluation committee at this point, really to look at what is fully met, what is partially met, what would be your expectation as it relates to those particular areas. My commitment is to provide progress as it relates to the joint plan, as well as the recommendations that you may have based on the rubric in which you are now creating.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what are you all's thoughts?
I think it'll give us time to have 2 weeks to kind of look at the information and really kind of review it, and then, having one set, rather than like we're doing tonight, going through folder
Piecemeal,
for folder. We'll have one documentation or one area to look for. We'll have the opportunity to go through all the data and then come back on October 12th to be able to make a decision. I think it's a good layout plan.
I think it definitely would streamline our process, as opposed to trying to figure out where it all is, and they'll provide it to us, so we have an opportunity to really dig into it, make our assessments, and then come back together, which was kind of, I think, what the hope was for tonight, was that we would have been able to have that and been able
I
to
know, I
process
thought
it.
y'all already made
So-
y'all assessments. I thought that's, you didn't mean to tell me y'all ain't prepared.
But if we have everything that's kind of organized and just there for us, I think it will be, and then have time to really digest it.
I was expecting to hammer this thing out tonight, like, on to the next thing.
We're
So,
still trying to read stuff.
what about you, Ms. Pender?
Well, I'm still trying to read stuff.
You're still trying to read. Ms. Pender, a slacker, oh my goodness.
Yes, I am.
I didn't say.
Well,
I didn't say.
actually, I started putting all the data that's been shared with us, based on what it is, and I started looking at it. But I could use a little bit more time to go through it, but that's what I plan to now. If they give me additional things other than what I already have, then I'll be able to, include that as well. But we've got an awful lot of data
That's it, it's a lot of stuff.
so
And it's
far
like,
to
it
go
should be an
through.
easier way to,
So if he gives if the district gives this report, you're gonna have 2 weeks. Will you be able to review all the data and
And
come to your
commit to do it.
conclusions in 2 weeks? Because in 2 weeks, when that date hits, you have to have decided on what you
Well, I
look
plan to review what I already have prior to that, and then during that 2 weeks' time, if they give me additional data that I don't already have, that will, give me additional information where I can make, a sound decision, then so be it.
yeah, because some stuff, some decisions have already been okay in my head.
Ms. Pender, can you speak?
Yeah,
Oh, some things have already been made in my head, where I see that it's not happened, so, but we'll go through the process.
Like, for example, the recommendations from 2019, okay, that were made, I see something highlighted on here, and I don't know if that means that they've already done it. I don't know what the highlighted,
Yeah, because this is
So,
a new one, this is.
Madam Chair, if I may speak to that?
yes.
The highlighted areas is what I added, and then those are the areas that are specifically laid out in the joint plan. So what you see is unhighlighted were the recommendations from 2019. What is highlighted are those are the areas specifically in the joint plan. So I think at the last meeting I spoke, I said I would provide that.
Right,
that's
so what Chris did, yeah, so I basically went to the recommendations and put them in here, and Chris went to the joint plan and added what the joint plan said to make sure that was included. So that's the highlighted area. So we've, like, you could go back in this time and look at the PowerPoint that was presented to the board and look at the joint plan, but this is basically just a meat and potatoes of both right here for you to look at. And then Dr. Moore is saying that they're gonna look at the joint plan and the recommendations and provide data.
What I envision is a very specific support aligned to the sections of the joint plan and the progress that we have, or have, the evidence of the work that we've done. You determine the progress that we've done in each of those specific areas, which would be 100% aligned to each section, and then a subsection within that aligned to the very specific recommendations. So within each sections, there were recommendations to kind of enhance the work above and beyond what was in the joint plan. So I can provide progress updates on that as well. Some of the progress, will be minimal to none. Others will be fully implemented, or the evidence of the work that we've done. You will make that determination. I just think, our responsibility is to make your job a little bit easier, and trying to fumble through the data. This is the information that we have. Apply the criteria that you're establishing tonight. Then that becomes where we are in the work moving forward, and that would be the report that we would send to the courts. I think that would be very, very a collegial way of putting together and defining where our reality is as it relates to the progress, or lack of, in the joint plan.
And could you also provide from the African American Achievement Plan, like the action steps related to those sections? Like if we wanted to go back and look at certain things?
Through the chair, I think the answer is obviously when there is an opportunity to align, there are things in the joint plan that are not in the African American Achievement Plan. African American Achievement Plan in some ways drills significantly deeper and is much more intentional. It is easier to hold ourselves accountable to that because it was written by educators versus the joint plan, which was written by a judge or I don't know who wrote it, but it was not written by an educator.
Yeah.
So it is, what we give for the joint plan is not nearly as specific as what we can give for the African American Achievement Plan. And I think now that the African American Achievement Plan is approved and students are returning next Monday, the progress that you'll see very, very explicitly aligned to that will be very easy to interpret. So I think in this particular report, we have to stick to the joint plan, but there'll be a significant amount of overlap, and we can easily identify that this is also, step 1.13 from the joint plan, or for the African American Achievement
Yeah.
Plan. I think that is.
Okay, so then. So if we're waiting in 2 weeks, what are we doing right now then?
So, Madam Chair, we can still look at the data. So, for example, one of the agenda items is recruitment, right? Doesn't mean we can't look at the recruitment plan and ask questions. If you can recall last year, Madam Chair, it's much different because staff is here to ask questions as well. So if we have questions on any of these things, and then I say we focus most of our time on the compliance report card. We get that done and ready to go before the next meeting in September.
I do have to sneak out. I have a daughter commitment. But to me, the most valuable thing is that report card. Does that report card accurately reflect how you're going to evaluate the progress of the joint plan? Does it include the recommendations? Does it include everything from the joint plan? And then what is the overall assessments that we're looking for. I think to me is very, very meaningful, fruitful conversation.
Question, the recommendations that were made last year, are they included, will they be included in your,
Yes, ma'am. And just to be complete, every recommendation, whether it was acted on or not, will be included in the information that I give to you. There may be, just as we look at it, a recommendation and no action was taken. So the only evidence would be provided would be a rationale or a rationale as to why no progress was made in this specific area.
Okay, I don't see the recruitment. How does it look?
Recruitment, I think it's this plan right here. Take this, and I already had one.
Yeah,
I
'cause
printed
I-
out.
Okay, thank you. So the recruitment plan.
Madam Chair, I did get a chance to review the recruitment plan over the last few days. And one concern I had on page 3, where they have the strategies for recruitment, there were no timeframes. So, it just basically says, we will examine previous recruitment efforts to evaluate diversity, effectiveness, major sources of new hires, but I would expect that there will be a time frame.
When they examine, like how often? Is that what you're
Yes.
asking for?
There are 12 items there, 12 strategies, rather. So if I'm going to implement a plan, because this is a plan, okay, I would certainly need to know when will I be doing these particular strategies or action steps or whatever you want to call them, but you would need to have an idea as to what month you're going to do it in, or completion date, or it's ongoing, or whatever. See, because like number 9, there is a chart on page 8 on page 8. The event dates are to be determined, but at least they have a schedule for that, okay?
Yes.
That particular item.
Yeah, last time we reviewed it, there were a lot of dates that weren't provided. So these are the areas that they,
So if you're looking on page 8, some of those schools may not have set their event dates yet, especially in light of COVID-19. So I don't know if those are available and ready to go. So as soon as those,
no, I'm saying when we reviewed it, it had already happened. So we were just looking at the different dates and it was still TBD on some of them.
yeah, all of them to be
Yeah,
decided?
so this is 2021, so likely they haven't. But on this, there, There's only one HBCU, FAMU. North Carolina A&T.
Madam Chair, may I interject, because I can answer a lot of these questions? So this schedule, because of COVID, most of the career fairs have not, they've all been postponed.
Okay.
And part of the African American Achievement Plan, one of the steps that was asked to be put into recruiting this year was to bring people to Indian River County. So one of the things that we're working on is a tour of schools to bring the HBCUs in Florida, and I've made connections with all of those schools already, and to get students, obviously, they haven't, not a lot of them have started back up yet, but I have connections with all of them already. So we're working with some community partners here in town to raise a little bit of money and work with some of the hotels to get graduating seniors at the HBCUs in Florida to come to Indian River County, put them up in the hotel for the night, and have, the Learning Alliance has already offered to do a reception for them, where we would invite community members to mingle with them, and then the next day, we would take them on a tour of 3 or 4 schools, so they could see the innovation and the things that we have to offer, and then bring them back to the district office for like a lunch, speak with whoever wants to talk, and so that way, you know, a lot of the trips that have been in the past have not been fruitful. And so we felt that in just discussions, and I've been on some of them, that let's get them here so they can talk to our people and see our town and our schools and do a little bit more salesmanship. And so we're working on that. We're just kind of trying to see what's happening with the opening of schools and travel. And so we first wanted to start with in Florida so they could drive here and it wasn't like flying and all of that, you know, to be safe. I've really got a lot of connection with FAMU. They're like, you know, emailing me all back, Edward Waters, Bethune-Cookman, Florida Memorial. So that's really the focus. And if we can try and put something together in October, that's the kind of goal I'm just nervous about, is just kind of waiting to see. So that's why this is to be determined, to be determined. I've contacted like the first 4 to see what their plans are, and everything says postponed. So we're just, you know, every time I get more information, I'm updating it because it's a fluid document. I've probably bothered Lori Webb, our webmaster, 5 times already with, you know, here's the new update because I got another piece of information to adjust the plan. So I didn't want you to have to sit here and decipher through all of it if you have any other questions about it. And to your question about the timeline, everything, the strategies listed, or your question about the timeline, okay. The strategies listed, the goal is to align everything to the timeline of the African American Achievement Plan. Almost everything in here is a piece or a suggestion from the African American Achievement Plan. So if there's a specific date for that, but I would be happy to put that in here and match it up. So that's also a piece of evidence that we could use to see how we're doing. Just be very clear.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome.
That's why I was saying if we had like for different areas that we're reviewing, if there was an action step that went with that area, then that's more information that you can go to the plan and say, okay, so we're looking for African-American history in all grades. If you go to 1.3 of the African-American Achievement Plan, it talks about the steps for that. So that was my point of paralleling the
I have
information.
a question about this.
Okay, so, Ms. Hofer, yes.
Well, we see NAACP.
So in the joint plan, section 3, number 10 of the joint plan, it specifically states that the NAACP be listed as a partner, and right next to that, it's HR and Director of Recruitment. So being new, it was kind of my understanding that that was already an established partnership, since the NAACP is part of these meetings, African American Achievement Plan, and then the sororities is also in
That's
the
it.
African
That was
American
the next
Achievement Plan
question.
under
That was
4
the
point,
next one.
I think it's 4.22. I have recently become aware that there's been some like, well, I didn't know we were partners, that kind of thing.
That's why I'm
So
asking the question.
I went ahead today just because I feel like, okay, I'm new. we will make sure to establish the partnership. Like, Mr. Seymour is a regional of the fraternity, and we've already had conversations, and I already told him we're going to get a flyer together so he can help me recruit through the fraternity. And as soon as I give him that flyer, he's going to give it to his people to post across nationwide to the fraternities. So I already went ahead today and updated the plan and reposted it on the website today, and I took them off, just so that we can
Okay.
reestablish and make sure that we're working together.
Because when you create a document, if you're going to use someone's logo as a partner, they need to at least have an opportunity to look at the document.
And this document's been posted, I think we've talked about it the last 2 meetings ago. So I apologize. It was part of the joint and the African American plan, and I assumed that it had already been past practice. So I went ahead and took it off, and it's already reposted without it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, so this is for 2021, 2020, 2021. So we're grading on 2019, 2020.
19 and 20, yeah.
Yeah, so this would be going forward for the next year. And there wasn't one plan established for this year.
Right,
That just passed.
right.
Brenda, could you bring up the presentation from last year, 2019? So last year, when we determined if the district was complying or not, this is what we said was required: a detailed plan specifically created to address mentoring for African-American teachers and instructional staff. The committee understands that there is an overall mentoring plan for all teachers, but what nuances and added efforts are implemented to address African-American teachers and instructional staff specifically? And then you will go to the next. So we said no compliance because we didn't have documentation to show a mentoring plan that addressed that area. Next. And then that's when we put in our recommendations that they create a plan that specifically addresses mentoring African-American teachers and instructional staff. In this plan includes strategies used to ensure that mentors are culturally competent and open to diversity, provide documentation to show that such pairing is happening and is effective. We requested that there be more African-American mentors added, that the principals publicize that so that the schools, but the teachers could see it, and also to recommend mentors, and that there be an informal mentoring from the community of retired
Our
educators,
teachers.
because we have a wealth of them. And at the time, we had Mr. Ben Osipian, and he agreed to that. Then we went on to recruitment. But before we go on to recruitment, so that's basically what we're doing here. We're looking to see if those concerns are addressed. If they're not, what data did we receive? What recommendations could we give as far as I would like to see, I don't know, like we requested offer letters for recruitment. So if there's something that you feel could help you better ascertain what the district is doing, then you would make that as a recommendation. We would discuss it, and then we we all vote to include that recommendation or not. And we actually vote on the compliance in its majority with the recommendation. Okay, so if you go on to recruitment. So recruitment provide plans specifically focused on the recruitment of African-American teachers and instructional staff. A yearly detailed report of the resources given for African-American teacher and instructional staff recruitment. A yearly expense report for African-American teacher and instructional staff recruitment. Documentation of recruitment trips to various HBCUs. Documentation of offer letters, visits, total numbers of letters accepted, non-acceptance, with reasons for non-acceptance of positions. Documentation of African-American applicants if the interview was given, a result of the interview, race of others interviewed, who was hired, their race, ethnicity, rationale for said hiring, rationale for not hiring. African-American applicants should be tracked by principal in school. You can go to the next slide, thank you. We said no compliance, district provided inadequate documentation, then we talked about the process, like at first when we got it, we didn't get what we needed, then district provided proof of visits to some HBCUs, so we did discuss what we did receive. District stated that they recently started tracking race of those recruited, minimal resources allocated for recruitment. So that's where I think it should be in here, like the recommendations. But when you get the documentation in 2 weeks, that's basically what you're looking at. You know, you're looking to see if these things are provided to you and what's provided to you. Do you feel that it's adequate or not? It's either compliant or non-compliant. The judge wants to know, like, has it been met or it hasn't? And then you could just put your notes, like, of different things that you notice, recommendations that you might want to give.
Okay.
So we had a lot of recruitment recommendations. Then we go on to the next area. Representation of African-American teachers and instructional staff. And we were looking for a report detailing the race, ethnicity of current teacher and instructional staff role by principal in school, supported by an easily readable chart showing the racial ethnic makeup of their teaching and instructional staff. Report from principals detailing all teaching and instructional staff vacancy announcements, including the race, ethnicity of each applicant, interviewee, person selected. We determined no compliance there. And we requested that district increase verifiable efforts to recruit and hire African-American teachers and instructional staff. Also create a line item in the budget specifically for African-American teacher recruitment. And then we had a ton of recommendations. The main recommendation was the African-American teacher representation should reflect the aggregate African-American student population, currently 17.2%, allowing for a variation of plus or minus 3%, not to fall below 5 teachers per school. And then we requested that that report be monthly. And I think at the end, like now, what are we doing quarterly? And then those are the reports that we requested. You can go to the next. So that's when we requested, like, provide culturally competent training for all staff when it comes to hiring. Okay, so then the next section is just a continued plan supervision, which basically states that until all of the areas are met, this plan will be continuously supervised by the court. But on that slide is where, if there's any concerns that you have with the board or that you want stated, you put there. So that's where you would put, that's where we said that If there's data received that presents a red flag or should be brought to the board's attention, where's the avenue for that? Because at the time, we really, outside of going to the board and speaking during citizen input, you know, there really wasn't an avenue for us to have communication with the board, other than that, an email. So we said there should be an avenue put in place for dealing with problems should any occur. The only avenue currently available is to speak during citizen input. Current time of board discussion meetings is not a convenient time for most working people to attend to present issues and concerns, because they were suggesting that we come during workshops, but I work during the day and workshops are at like 1 p.m. We propose, since the desegregation order is a priority, that the board place the district's progress toward meeting the desegregation order on the agenda monthly as needed. This is to ensure measures and progress are being frequently discussed with the superintendent and monitored by the board. So that has occurred. They do get equity updates. And then we also feel that the board members should attend at least one meeting to hear the concerns of the equity committee members and citizens, and to learn about the activity of this district. Board policy does not prohibit this. We have had Ms. Zork in attendance a few times, and Ms. Schiff has come a few times, and Ms. Barrenborg was by teams in our last meeting. So 3 out of the 5 have attended. And then that's the African American Student Achievement Resources. In the last committee, what we were looking for is detailed plans showing efforts and strategies implemented to eliminate the achievement gap, as well as data showing substantial results using plan implementation. We were asking for grade and testing score levels by race, ethnicity, and school programs specifically for African American students to assist with achieving academic improvement. Quarterly detailed report of resources allocated to achievement gap by school principal, include what they are doing specifically for African American students. We kept discussing specifically African American teachers, specifically African American students, because there are some plans in place that are for all students, but since this DSEG is focused on African American, we have to be mindful and make sure that we request specifically to that. So that, because that's what we're monitoring. And then detailed plans showing efforts and strategies implemented to eliminate the achievement gap, as well as data showing substantial results using plan implementation. Include grade and test scoring levels by race and ethnicity in schools. Quarterly report detailed of resources allocated to achievement gap by school principal. Include what they're doing specifically for African American students. We asked for principals because, you know, the principals are the head at the school, like the district could have their processes, but if we wanted principals to own
That
this
should
as
be in
well.
their school plan, what
Yes.
specifically they're doing for African-American students.
Right, so with the school plan, they're saying like it should be in the school plan, but then when it comes to resources, then that probably wouldn't be in the plan. So like they'll show their plan to include, you know, whatever activities they're doing pertaining to African American achievement gap, but when we're looking at like volunteer hours, funds and things, I'm not sure that that would be in the plan for us to be able to really see, you know, be able to allocate like, okay, well, they had 20 volunteers working 40 hours a week for 6 weeks in their readathon or something, like whatever program that they have. But just to give you, that was basic, well, let me see, I have you go to, what's the next one? The next one is, because we're almost through with that anyway, student assignment. So student assignment, we basically wanted race of students by school, by designation of zone school, and school choice, also include transportation method. So we said no compliance. We currently have racially identifiable schools. So basically until the district allocation of students, where like Dodgertown, you have a 49%, Felsmere you have 93% Hispanic. So until those numbers change, this won't be met because we have racially identifiable schools. Then we requested for student assignment, a study to research why some schools are more racially identifiable than others. Ask parents that choose school choice to give feedback on reasons for not attending their zone school, and provide statistics for bus riders, walkers, and car riders for each school. So basically, we were trying to figure out, okay, so 49% of black students go to Dodgetown. Is it because it's in close proximity to them and they don't have transportation? Or is it because parents like the convenience, you know, because then that will determine if parents want it because it's convenient, then it's not a force or, you know, they're being pushed there. It's because that's what they chose, as opposed to parents have them there because there's no bus to come there. You can go to transportation. Okay, so then with transportation reports showing student enrollment numbers versus students riding school buses, break down by school into subgroups of race for those busing to school. We said no compliance. Current statistics only show transportation of entire district as a whole. No compliance until committee can examine bus ridership by school to determine if school enrollment is driven by transportation. So like that, student allocation and transportation kind of go hand in hand. And then reports showing student enrollment numbers versus students riding school buses include students using transportation based on race by school. And our last one was extracurricular. So we were asking clubs to provide their requirements to participate, report of student participation, including racial makeup of the students in each club, provide plans showing current channel for complaints of discrimination or inaccessibility for student parents pertaining to extracurricular activities. It said, we said that they were compliant, however, there were some complaints about discrimination in lacrosse, cheerleading, soccer, and orchestra. We asked that those activities be examined further, also that those activities be more inclusive. Then our recommendation, yeah, that was our recommendation. So basically, that's what we do. You go through, you look at the information, you determine if they were compliant. Now, we are in a pickle because we have a plan now, right? But the plan is for 2021. So,
And we're evaluating 19 and 20.
19 and 20.
That's right.
right, so we're evaluating the year before. So even, we may find like not compliant, but then the next committee will find that it's compliant because they have all.
Madam Chair, I'm almost positive that we have one from 1920. I'd have to reach out to Mike Smeltzer to make sure we have it, but the one that you have here is an updated one, but I'm almost positive we had a recruitment plan for the prior year. This is just the updated copy, so, and I believe we
So that's
received
the
it.
documentation we're gonna need, Chris. We're gonna
And
need
that's what, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, and you'll receive it.
the 1920, because that's what we're going to be evaluating. And we've gotta see the documentation in order to really make an accurate decision on whether we're compliant or not.
So our meeting will conclude early tonight because you all have me coming back for another meeting.
Madam Chair, if I may, so,
I think it'll be smoother, though. I think that once we have everything, and we'll be able to just discuss, we've already done our analysis, and we'll be able to discuss our findings.
so I think what we have to do first is look at this timeline and make sure that we have to pick a meeting either September 23rd or the 24th, so if we can all check our schedules. And then also make sure that we make a commitment for those 2 weeks, if we can all commit to each other to make sure we review that data during those 2 weeks, to make sure we come prepared to make our recommendations to the district. That way, you know, we're not sitting here going over the data for the first time, that way we're ready to go and make those decisions and to defend them. So, really, if everybody can look at their calendar and see if we have September 23rd or 24th available.
Same time, 5:30.
Yes,
23rd is a Wednesday.
yes.
I would say 23rd.
I prefer
Everybody-
23rd.
23rd? So again, Ms. Davis will send out the invites, and I will also ask Ms. Davis to send invites out for October 12th as well. Then October 20th, and October 27th.
So they're presenting to us on the 23rd, and then we're coming back on October 12th to review.
To review as a group, yes, hopefully reviewing individually for those 2 weeks, but yeah.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make sure that if you're selecting September 23rd on that first selection for Wednesday, that 2-week window will be the time frame of that you'll have the data to review, look at, make comments. So then when we come back on the 12th, we would have received some feedback or, some communication. So on the 12th, when we come back, we're going to create the joint equity report together based on that. Of course, you'd have your feedback of the ratings and all of that.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
So, because we're supposed to, as a group, we would discuss the data together on the 12th and then give you all that information.
Yeah, but if you have any questions, you'll get a lot of information on, we're going to provide that information on the 23rd. You'll have it. You may have questions during that 2-week period. We want to make sure that we can answer those clarifying questions. So we will be available.
So we can call you if we have
Yes,
questions?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
During that two-week period
That
is what you're
2-week
saying?
period, we just wanted to make sure it wasn't, just, we give it to you and you couldn't ask questions, you couldn't ask clarifying, because it will be a lot of information that you'll have.
Okay.
And I asked that if you all have questions and different communications, that when we come together, you provide that, just so if anybody else had those questions,
Okay.
they can get an understanding as well.
Yeah, we can do that. That'll work.
Thank you. Okay, so then the 12th is on Monday.
So when we come back on the 12th, we will have these documents completed right here with our
Yeah,
employee.
basically, we've already come to,
Okay.
Be
Wow,
prepared to
yeah.
discuss as a team. right?
yes, but be prepared to discuss like your position and
Okay.
why.
Okay.
On the report card.
Yes.
So are we okay with the compliance report card then? If so, I'll ask Ms. Davis to email it to everybody.
Have you all had an opportunity to look at the report card? Was anything taken off or just added?
This added.
And October 12th.
Second Monday, October 12th. Yes.
And then the 27th, he's saying we present to the school board members, but we have to ensure that, you all ensure that the NAACP is okay with that date? And what time is that meeting? October 27th, what time would that meeting be? And that's the joint meeting with the NAACP?
Afternoon, she mean after 5,
Has the NAACP agreed to the October 27th date?
No, I think Dr. Moore wanted to bring it to the Equity Committee first, and then follow up with the NAACP tomorrow. But that will be the business meeting,
Okay.
like we did last year. Remember how?
Okay, okay.
Does anyone else have any comments, concerns, discussions? Any comments from the public? Citizen? Yeah, sorry,
You know,
I know I took a long time.
Madam Chair, we are, am I doing?
But you got me on the clock, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, sir.
I thought you would. There's one thing about you. You definitely going to be on that time thing. Madam Chairman, I've been coming here for almost 2 years, and I'm kind of somewhat disappointed, simply because of the fact that I think that I'm not certain if the goals and objectives that you're providing the school boards are so broad until I'm not even certain if they are obtainable. I say that because of this. I've been in contact with the court. It just seemed like to me, Mr. Taylor, that if I was trying to recruit black teachers, that I would have a strategic plan that I'm going to contact these colleges at a certain length of time, and I'm going to make some type of effort to lure them in. And I think Ms. Hoffa was here a minute. And we are in the process of doing that. Now, another thing, closing the achievement gap. Mr. Seymour, when kids are truant, can we close the gap? So then some things that we need to have as our objective is to deal with the truant kids. Let's deal with suspension. Let's deal with disciplinary problems, et cetera. And then if we take your plan and divide it into 3, we got 3 years to complete it. Let's take the top 3 things, the issues, and get it to the judge for this year, those top 3 things. You won't be able, with all these broad plans, to get this done in this timely fashion. I think you're going to have to break it up and say that these are my objectives for the first year, and then take the next year and do. Let's be realistic about this. We're educated. We've got to know how to simplify these plans and get this done. Let's not just keep coming here talking and beating our jaws day in and day out for years. I see you, but you ain't getting nothing done. And I really
You gotta talk to the microphone.
I really want to get something done here. And I think we need to get something done. We got to simplify this with this thing with education. Let's say for closing academic gap. If we're going to get every student that's below 2 point black, we're going to increase his GPA by 510. That makes sense as long as we are doing the things that increase it. It makes sense as long as we're keeping the kids in school, not suspending them, and not giving them disciplinary referrals. You can't educate a kid if he's not in school. So we need to prioritize some things here. I don't know nothing. I graduated from Tennessee State University with Oprah Winfrey. She didn't graduate, but I did. That's my time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
I agree with you.
But
We
I
have to
agree
be
with them
intentional. We
100%,
have to be
though. I agree with
intentional
them
about closing the
100%.
gap, and we have to put some things in place that's going to work. You know, I think we have a lot of minds that can come together, but if kids are so low, and when we look at that 5-year, we see that they're not making gains, okay? They're either 1 year to make a few gains, and they'll fall back down. So that tells us what we're doing is not working, and we need to go back to the drawing board and think of something else. It might be that they need some tutors, they may need some, I don't know what it is, but we need to figure out what it is and provide it. So I agree with you.
And with that, that's not our job really to figure it out. The district is the one
Yeah.
that will be doing the work. We're just here to look at, that's why I said if we could see what action steps line up with what area,
Yeah.
we can see where the district is working to do that. But we also have to keep in mind that that's 2020, 2021, so we're not grading them based off that. We're grading based off what happened in 2019, 2020. And as Chris was saying, that there is a plan for that year, so that's the information that we'll be getting also. But then we also have been charged with looking at 2021.
And when I say
and
we, I don't
seeing-
mean us as a board, I mean as a school district, okay? That's what school district, really, they should be coming together saying, you know what, we see this group of kids, and they're not learning, they're not making gains, okay? And our goal is that we want all children
Right.
to be successful. What can we do that we have not done to help this group of children?
Well, I know that Dr. Moore is changing the way that the district does discipline, so we will see a decrease in kids being out of school when it comes to that. That's one thing I have seen, and commend him on for doing that. But with you all, I don't know, just really making sure that everyone understands what we are charged with. And that's what monitoring, looking to see if they have done what has been stated previously, and then making your own recommendations. Like, one of the recommendations that I'm gonna make is that our graduation rate and GPA be tied together. Like, we see, the GPA of students, but tell me in the graduation cohort, how many of those students have certain GPAs? How many of those students score at level 3? Because I think that puts it more into perspective, because we can have 88% of black students graduating, but if only 29, 30% of them scored a level 3, then we have a problem,
Yes.
So that's something that, one of my recommendations, that we tie those things together so that we can actually examine better. Like, let's not celebrate the 88% if we're putting kids out there that can't read and that won't be able to thrive once they're out of school. So those are the things that I would like for you all to think about, or we should think about, not I would like for you, we should think about in order to assist, because they are doing the work, but we may have some perspective that they do not have, and that's what we have to take into consideration too, that with this joint plan, they brought the district and the NAACP and the community together so that we could all work together. They're specialized in education, but you all have educational backgrounds as well, and you may see things that the district may not see, or have experiences that the district does not have, like Mr. Stewart, for instance. Write all your stuff down, get it to me, and I'll put it out there, because you're retired, you have the time to look at certain things, you have the experiences, and that's what we're about. All of us working together to make sure that our students thrive and do well, and our district do well, because our district is not doing well, does not help us, because we have a hard time recruiting people to this district because we're not doing well. So,
When you said something, it's not your job, it's the school board's job to meet the federal court order. It's their job to do this. You're the monitors. You see, they are the defendant. The NAACP is the plaintiff in the case. The burden of proof is on the school board. And so what they need to do is to simplify this thing and say, get these goals and objectives, and let's simplify this so that they can be attainable. And let's divide it up into the 3 years that you got. You see what I'm saying? Do X number for 1 year. Don't try to do all this.
make your recommendation, get it to me, and we can forward it, because it is their, I'm not doing that, I'm not your secretary. You write it down and you get it to me. And we're working together here. We're working together.
I think it'll be in the minutes anyway.
Okay, so order. Okay, so for the record, if you're not speaking into the microphone, it will not be in the minutes. We know you're a stickler about the minutes, so you have to speak into the
So
microphone.
he'll always be in the
Did
microphone.
you get this in there for that? Yes, I do believe that we need to simplify this plan. We need to divide it up into 3 years. What the court has given you, you only got 2.5 now. And let's do this in a way that we can measure whatever objectives that we set. If it can't be measured, you know that, it's useless. And we can just make it real, what they call it, kids, keep it simple, stupid.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Thank you. What were you saying? We have one more year after this.
Yeah, one more year, yeah, you already.
We have what?
I have the transcript from last year, and you said that was waste.
You're not in the mic,
I think you can add 2. I was reading something, I think you can add 2 more after the 3 years if both parties come together.
But see, he's
He
one of
said
those-
that last year was a waste. She, Judge Kathleen Williams, said it was a waste. That was the transcript that was, I think it was December of 2019.
19.
And she awarded, I think someone asked her to give them another year. You asked her, right. And she did give you the other year. So right now, we working with 2 years and the rest of this year. And I'm sure now, in all, you got 5 to work from.
Yes. could
If you need it.
Could you provide me with the transcript?
Yes, I
Have it,
can
okay.
provide you with those transcripts.
Yeah,
I can.
I know that
You
if,
may have to remind me, just text me and
Okay.
remind me, and I'll get them to you.
okay.
Okay.
Yes, if compliance is not met by the 3rd year, then it extends for 2 years. And that's, yes, that's basically how it
But I
works.
think what she's looking for is something that she can understand, she's looking for something that she can understand and the public can understand too. The citizen need to understand this. We're not trying to complicate this to such an extent that can't nobody understand it but the people who got a doctorate degree.
Thank you. Yes, so that concludes our citizen input for tonight. Ms.
No, I don't.
Sanders, you had-
No,
okay. Anyone else had any comments or concerns? Okay, well, our meeting is. Is it? I don't know where my agenda is at this point. I'll check them. Okay, number 6 is public records. Is it?
It is public records when each member forward their public records to the district. Not sure what that means. I'm not sure why that's on there.
Okay, so basically, I don't remember what it was about either, but I believe what I was asking is that when we're coming up on a section that needs to be discussed, if you have any thoughts of information that you would want to be discussed at that time, you can request public records, because I have been the only person, I think, requesting public records. But. You're right, but that's not. Okay, well, do you know what it was about? Okay.
I'm sorry, I put that on, I had a discussion with Attorney DeRessa, she said that the city was supposed to each year send me any of my public records. Yes, you have to know. I'm supposed to be, the district is the records custodian for the committee, so I need any records that are public records sent to me for the district to be custodian of, and that would include any emails you receive.
So
from-
communications that we get from other people?
Right.
Okay.
Anything that has to do with committee business.
Okay. Well, then why'd you let me discuss that if you do that?
I thought maybe you had something, you knew something I didn't.
No. I didn't, I'm like, well, I don't know what that is, but.
So basically, I just need to know if there's consensus, if you all want to do it monthly, quarterly, yearly, or if you want to do it individually, whenever you decide. I just need to know.
Well, at this point, it'd be yearly, right? We're almost done.
Right.
Yeah, at this stage.
You know,
yeah, it can be.
So So anything public records, so like this stuff that we have here, is that what you're asking for, Ms. Davis?
So like if somebody
No.
communicates
Just
with us about
communication.
the equity committee, then we would just
Any
forward that email?
emails, text messages,
So even the emails that we
Letters.
receive, that's a group message
So,
that you get also?
so what she's asking, if it's
No.
a
No.
school district email, you won't need that, correct? Because you have that, okay, so it'd just be on private emails, private texts. that's-
right.
Yeah, so it would be.
So you're talking about private
Private.
text messages that someone sends to us?
That deals with the.
They're only
equity.
private if they're not about committee business. If it's about committee business, they're public record and you have to
Okay,
send
I
it.
understand.
So communications, yeah.
Communications, yes, emails, text messages.
Okay.
So could we shoot for that by end of October?
Yep.
Thank you.
So what happens with verbal communications, because that's where a lot of my stuff happens.
Oh, verbal, there's no
Yeah.
record.
It has to be stuff that's documented, right? I
In
would
writing.
think, because you have no proof of verbal, so it would have to be something that's documented, okay?
Okay. Okay, no further comments, questions, concerns? Okay, well, the meeting is adjourned, and we'll be back October 12th?
Yes. No.
23rd of September.
23rd.
What is the date?
23rd.
It's September 23rd.